He hasn't been elected, he hasn't been confirmed, and he sure as hell isn't a career civil servant. And in fact, as the world's richest man and one who has...
Hold on, Phil, I'm sorry. Go ahead and repeat that. Repeat that for the people in the back who didn't hear that, okay?
Publishers shut down federal departments and agencies, and with that, right, Musk? He hasn't been elected, he hasn't been confirmed, and he sure as hell isn't a career civil servant.
So, I mean, maybe, call me crazy, but that should be case point, period. There is no other conversation that needs to be had if this isn't acknowledged. No civil servant, take that off the board. Not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, and he wasn't elected. So why are people entertaining what is going on? So Elon Musk and his MUSKeteers, which once again you guys can use that. I just came up with it. But Elon Musk and his MUSKeteers are literally effing America so hard right now that we need to hope and pray that this condom that we call a democracy does not break. Because if it breaks, they're not going to take care of the baby. They're not going to take care of the kids. This is something that they will push and blame on everybody else and their mama for whatever crazy nonsense consequences that happen for their negligence. Like we're gonna have to hope, because Elon Musk, once again, it's weird. Elon Musk is unelected, unofficial, non-credential having, non-US citizen, literally destroying everything. And it's not even funny. It's weird that Republicans would cry about DEI programs when Elon Musk has no government experience whatsoever. Taking government subsidies doesn't count of having government experience. They would cry about immigrants destroying the country. What is he doing? Look at what he did with Twitter. And it just tanked in every way possible. So once again, like we already know Republicans are hypocrites. It's just weird. No one seems to care on their side. Like it's just frustrating. But the story we're talking about is Elon Musk and the MUSKeteers going into the USAID and just completely shitting on every legal aspect of everything they're doing. Which, to me, if you guys know me, I don't like to have conversations until we have a understanding, an agreement of fundamental realities. If we can't agree to that, then there's no point to have conversations. And everything we're going to get into about the spending, about the foreign aid and all of that is good conversation. But if you can't acknowledge the basic fundamentals of reality, no other conversation matters. And that's what I'm seeing, especially on Fox News. Nothing else matters if you don't understand what Trump and everybody else who's being a part of that are doing illegal shit. It's illegal. They don't have the authority, let alone the power to dismantle any U.S. institutions. So what is going on here? I don't want to hear nothing about anything about what this USAID is doing, possibly doing. I don't care. They're doing illegal shit. But like, what do you expect when their own president is a convicted felon? So maybe I'm expecting too much. But let's read this real quick because I had to take some notes last night. The USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development. Once again, these words mean something. Everyone's like, what? They're giving money for that? Listen to the origins, listen to their purpose, and then maybe you can have an understanding of their actions. But people don't get that. But Let's go. It is an independent agency of the U.S. federal government, primarily responsible for administrating foreign aid and development assistance around the world. So it's not just foreign aid; it's an abundance of type of assistance throughout the world. Okay. The USAID was established in 1961 by an executive order issued by President John F. Kennedy. The creation of the agency was part of a broader effort to enhance U.S. engagement in global development during the Cold War and to counter the influence of communism by supporting economic and social progress in developing nations. So once again, if you know the origins of a thing, then you can kind of get a better understanding of their purpose. But if you just hear what they're sending out to these other countries and not understand their purpose or their origins, you're going to be confused, which you should be because you don't know nothing. So I understand why it's some confusion because people lack the motivation to dig a little deeper and figure out some things. But the USAID delivers food, water, shelter, and medical care during natural disasters, conflicts, or other crises. This includes vaccination campaigns, efforts to control infectious diseases like HIV, AIDS, malaria, and child health programs. The USAID supports small businesses development, vocational training, and microfinance initiatives to boost local economies. They also help promote citizens' participation and accountability in governance. Once again, it's an institution to where if there is some craziness going on in the background, which once again, when it's millions of dollars, of course it's going to be. People are naturally greedy. People are naturally going to want to skim some money off the top, which once again, we have a government agency that's supposed to be doing that, but that's once again part of that conversation. So if there is waste, we can get rid of it. We can address it. But one thing that can't happen is someone like Elon Musk, who has no credentials, no legislative power, no power in general. He's not even in government. He's not even not even in the smallest sense. I can't even think of none, zero. He cannot look at an institution like this and say it needs to be dismantled, and he goes through the processes of doing that. Here's some facts. The USAID is a federal agency created and funded by Congress, which means that any move to shut it down will ultimately have to come from the legislative branch. Last time I checked, that's not Elon Musk. So what are we doing not acknowledging that part, and we're just now allowing him to do this? But once again, hey, you guys may not even know what the hell I'm talking about, but let's go ahead, hear Phil DeFranco, get a little bit more of the details of what's going on so you guys can understand that a lot is happening and he doesn't even have the authority to do so, which is the scary part. Let's listen.
Havoc that Elon Musk is wreaking across the federal government right now, from the Treasury Department to the Office of Personnel Management to the United States Agency for International Development. Right? Because Elon, as we know, is the head of the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency. So there, to be clear, DOGE isn't actually a government department. Right? It's just a team within the administration. Congress is supposed to be the one with the power to establish or shut down federal departments and agencies. And with that, right, Musk? He hasn't been elected, he hasn't been confirmed, and he sure as hell isn't a career civil servant. And in fact, as the world's richest man and one who has...
Phil, I'm sorry. Go ahead and repeat that. Repeat that for the people in the back who didn't hear that, okay?
Establish or shut down federal departments and agencies. And with that, right, Musk? He hasn't been elected, he hasn't been confirmed, and he sure as hell isn't a career civil servant.
So, I mean, maybe, call me crazy, but that should be case point, period. There is no other conversation that needs to be had if this isn't acknowledged. No civil servant, take that off the board. Not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, and he wasn't elected. So why are people entertaining what is going on?
And in fact, as the world's richest man and one who has consistently railed against what he sees as the injustice of federal regulation of his companies, he has possibly the most substantial conflicts of interest of anyone in this government. But despite all that, he is reportedly creating chaos, shattering precedent, and gaining almost unheard of access and influence across almost every actual department, agency, and office in the government. And so with that, let's start with the Department of Treasury, where the news starts with a standoff between Doge and a man by the name of David Liebring. Right? And notably, David is a guy who has dedicated his life to civil service when his former colleagues say he could have been making millions on Wall Street. He started his career in the Treasury as an intern way back in 1989. He'd been the Fiscal Assistant Treasury Secretary since 2014, which is the highest position a civil service employee can actually reach, meaning notably everyone above him would be a political appointee, with David being described as the one who, quote, runs the nation's checkbook and being widely credited with steering the nation's finances through the debt ceiling crises of the past 15 years. And the key thing with all that is that Trump named Liebring acting Secretary of the Treasury Department upon taking office last month, with then Musk and his allies pushing him for access to the department's payment system. And notably, according to reports, that included Tom Krause, the chief executive of a tech company called Cloud Software Group, who's now working with Doge. But what we saw is that Liebring resisted, with him then being placed on administrative leave, the Senate confirming Trump's pick as the new Treasury head, and on Friday, Liebring resigned. And so then, very quickly, with Trump's new guy in charge, Musk's team was given access to the payment systems, which, is a very big...
Once again, hey, did we just catch what happened? He has no access to all this information, and with all this, these tech other companies working along with Musk. Once again, those are major red flags. Now, old boy said, "Hey, I'm not dealing with this." And after how long of service, he just ups and quits or resigns. Hey, a little weird to me, but I mean, what else should I expect except for clownery at this point?
Deal, because these systems, they control the flow of more than $6 trillion every year. And tens, if not hundreds of millions of people across the country rely on them for the distribution of Social Security and Medicare benefits, salaries, payments to government contractors and grant recipients, and tax refunds, among tens of thousands of other functions. Though with all this, you then had Musk claiming on X, the Doge team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups, with the men claiming they literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even one.
Once again, I've been watching hours upon hours of people like Fox News all the way to the Majority Report all day yesterday. And one thing I learned about Elon Musk is that he's never going to show any sort of proof, any sort of evidence to anything. So anything he ever says, I do not care. Because one thing that I learned, which I don't know if Phil DeFranco is going to hit on this, but one, they have a whole separate entity that denies. It's not their job to deny. It's not their department. It's not this particular area's job to do that, Elon. So it's like, no shit. It's like asking or pointing out that a chef in a restaurant never handled the cash register machine. Well, kind of no shit. It's not his job, but they work in the same restaurant. That's not his job. His job is to be back there cooking that beautiful, delicious food, not handling the customers. But once again, I don't expect anyone who has no government background to understand that. I didn't even know until I had to look it up. But I mean, okay.
But then with all that, you had people saying, one, as is the case with many of his claims, he provided no evidence there to back it up.
Yeah.
Two, to be very clear, the Treasury does in fact have a do not pay system to prevent payments to terrorists, fraudsters, and other bad actors. But in any case, with that, Musk is now reportedly using his new power to shut down some payments to some federal contractors. With this including, for example, shutting down payments by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to Lutheran Family Services, which notably is a faith-based charity that has been providing social services to refugees. And that is a whole other can of worms because, as explained by Bloomberg, for example, Treasury officials have long maintained that its role is to serve as the federal government's checkbook, and noting that the decision about whether to approve or deny payments belongs to individual agencies based on funds appropriated by Congress. And so this is all wrapped up in this debate about whether or not the president can withhold funds Congress has already approved, right? And with that, notably, according to a 1974 federal law known as the Impoundment Control Act, he generally can't. But you have some Trump aides arguing that the law is unconstitutional, which of course paves the way for a court battle. But also, in the meantime, Democrats are of course coming down hard on everything that happened with the Treasury. Senator Ron Wyden, for example, a top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, writing a letter to the new secretary saying, to put it bluntly, these payment systems simply cannot fail, and any politically motivated meddling in them risks severe damage to our country and the economy. Continuing, I can think of no good reason why political operators who have demonstrated a blatant disregard for the law would need access to these sensitive mission-critical systems. And then you also had Peter Welch, another Democratic member of the Senate Finance Committee, saying in a statement, it's a gross abuse of power by an unelected bureaucrat, and it shows money can buy power in the Trump White House. And then, of course, with all that, the usual cliche applies. This is just the tip of the iceberg, because reportedly, similar Doge teams have begun demanding access to data and systems at other federal agencies as well. On Friday, for example, Musk's team reportedly locked career civil servants at the OPM out of computer systems that contain the personal data of millions of federal employees, with this data reportedly including dates of birth, social security numbers, appraisals, home addresses, pay grades, and length of service of government workers.
Once again, you're telling me that Elon Musk and his MUSKeteers now have access to all this personal information about you and I. Why is that? And everybody and their mama, well, Republicans, crying about TikTok? They're crying about TikTok in China. The evil China, man, is wanting to steal our information, while literally someone who's not even a government official now has access. Not just him, other people he decided to have tag along who has no government business knowing our personal business. What is going on? But once again, this is not even a conversational starter for me. I don't want to talk to nobody about anything unless they can say, hey, Elon Musk and his buddies should not be flexing their money over people who actually are in that position. He should not be butting into people's work affairs if he's not even a part of the work. It feels weird to explain that. It's like me walking into McDonald's and start ordering people around. I don't even work there. So why? I mean, we know why. Because Elon is a billionaire and he bought this election. So this is, I guess, his access, I guess. Hey.
Social security numbers, appraisals, home addresses, pay grades, and length of service of government workers. With one official even telling Reuters, we have no visibility into what they are doing with the computer and data systems, saying this is creating great concern. There is no oversight. It creates real cybersecurity and hacking implications. But then, with all that, right, the agency getting the biggest shakeup, at least for now, it's probably USAID. Though shakeup might not be the word, because Musk is now saying that Trump agrees that the whole thing must go. With that, USAID getting hit is something that we've talked about ever since Trump issued a sweeping executive order suspending foreign aid for 90 days. With that then leading to mass confusion, layoffs, and program shutdowns. I mean, for example, more than 1,000 USAID employees and contractors have already been fired or furloughed. And then, on top of that, around 60 senior USAID staff were put on leave last week after being accused of attempting to circumvent the foreign aid freeze. With then another senior official being put on leave for trying to reverse that move after finding no evidence of wrongdoing. But now, what we're seeing is that Musk's involvement is taking the chaos to a whole new level. Starting with this weekend when Doge personnel reportedly tried to access classified USAID security systems and personnel files at the agency's headquarters in DC. However, they, or at least some of them, reportedly lacked high enough security clearance to access that information, so the two USAID security officials believed themselves legally obligated to deny access. The Doge personnel, however, they reportedly demanded to be let in and threatened to call US Marshals to be allowed access. And eventually,
Whoa. Hey, I guarantee you, if I was in that position trying to tell them, hey, you don't belong here. You don't have the access to access this information. Unless somebody, I'm going to call the U.S. Marshal. Hey, call whoever you want. You ain't getting in here. But no, I mean, I guess I'm just built differently. I don't know. But it's just weird. Why? Who you gonna call? Why you're the one that's lacking the credentials to access an unaccessed area. You know what I'm like how many examples do I need to give? Hey, I can't just walk up into your crib. You know why? Because I don't have a key. I don't have access to your house. And it's like me banging on your door saying, let me in, or I'm gonna call the police on you because you won't let me into your house. I mean, but once again, maybe I'm just thinking too logical here. I think that's the case. And that's having me going crazy because it feels like, and I wrote an article about this. Go ahead and check it out in the comments down below. Being sane is uncool now. You have to be insane to fit in. And I'm not going to do that. So maybe that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm thinking too sanely right now. So therefore, everything like this that's happening is just crazy to me. But maybe I'm the only one. I don't know.
Eventually, according to reports, they got in, again, accessing classified information, which reportedly included intelligence reports. Also on Saturday, USAID's website went dark and the new page for the agency appeared on the State Department website. Also, USAID's X account went offline, and then finally, those two officials who kept Doge out, they were put on administrative leave. With then Musk saying in response that, quote, USAID is a criminal organization, time for it to die. And this is you then had Katie Miller, another Doge official, claiming no classified material was accessed without proper security clearances. However, with that, one thing to keep in mind is that in addition to canceling 50 security clearances in what's been described as an unprecedented and partisan move, Trump also granted temporary security clearances to officials who had not been fully vetted, which is something critics say makes the U.S. vulnerable. So,
hey, can we, once again, can we just let this marinate for a second? Can we just let this sink in for a second? Everyone's always talking about this DEI. Oh, DEI this, DEI that. And they're literally giving clearance, security clearance, temporary. I didn't know you can give, it's just for something as important as this to people who haven't even been properly vetted. I used to work at an airport. The amount of verification they need to do on you is rightfully so. But it's a long process for a reason, for security reasons. I mean, I guess Republicans don't care about security, right? Unless it's about China, right? China and TikTok. That's the only time that means something is when it has to do with China and TikTok. But no, let's just let these unofficials get temporary access to confidential information about everything, right? Okay, got you.
Granted temporary security clearances to officials who had not been fully vetted, which is something critics say makes the U.S. vulnerable. And so with that, we saw Democratic members of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee writing a letter to Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying, the potential access of sensitive, even classified files raises deep concerns about the protection and safeguarding of matters related to U.S. national security. We also saw people like AOC writing on X. Having an unelected billionaire with his own foreign debts and motives raiding U.S. classified information is a grave threat to national security. This should not be a partisan issue. Though there, you then had some hitting back, predicting that Doge will uncover waste, fraud, and corruption, with then AOC responding, if you want to start with waste, start with Elon's defense contracts at the Pentagon. In fact, we should start with transparency around defense contracts in general, which takes up an enormous sum of public funds. But they won't do that, will they? Also,
or let's talk about all the government subsidies that Elon Musk has ever received from our government. And look up what government subsidies mean. It's just government, just is welfare for rich people, essentially. And everyone always wants to talk about welfare people, but when it comes to people like Elon Musk, who already has his own money, now he wants to use taxpayers' money for his own businesses. I mean, kind of weird, right? I mean, you would think you would look at that, but no, of course not. Let's look at foreign aid to helping other people. Got you.
So with everything here, I will say when it comes to US aid, this is about way more than just accessing data. You also have Musk describing the agency as evil and a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America, with then Trump piling on yesterday as well, telling reporters, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics and we're getting them out and then we'll make a decision. But that decision, it's reportedly already been made, with Musk saying that Trump is on board, that US aid should be shut down. Or with this reportedly being a claim made by Musk in a conversation on X Spaces early this morning with Republican Senators Joni Ernst, Mike Lee, and former Doge co-lead Vivek Ramaswamy.
It's also incredibly politically partisan and has been supporting radical left causes throughout the world, including things that are anti-American, which is insane.
And Musk...
No. And let's go back. If you don't know who she is, it doesn't matter. She's a part of the Senate, okay? And like I said before, if they ever want an institution to be shut down, it needs to be done through Congress. Hey, she's a part of that. What is she talking about giving him the access to do that? That's illegal. That's unconstitutional, if that even means anything. I mean, we have a convicted felon as president. So maybe the word illegal doesn't mean nothing unless it's illegal immigrants. And then like, they're going to start freaking the hell out. You see what I'm saying? Like, this was never an issue. If they had an issue with it, put a vote out on it. But no, she's just in it because if any Republican stands in their way, guess what's going to happen? Going to primary them out because he's a billionaire. And we allow money to rule our politicians and our politics.
Radical left causes throughout the world, including things that are anti-American, which is insane.
And Musk is right. That is insane. And it clearly shows we need to have a conversation about what US aid actually does, because it's not that. The agency was established in 1961 under JFK, and it is the world's single largest donor, providing 42% of all humanitarian aid tracked by the United Nations in 2024. But then also, with that, foreign aid overall, of which US aid is only one part of, accounts for less than 1% of the federal budget. But that's still billions of dollars that, among other things, goes to projects aimed at alleviating poverty, treating diseases, and responding to famines and natural disasters, as well as promoting independent media, social initiatives, and anti-corruption work. I mean,
all right. Now, once again, it makes up less than 1% of all government spending. That, to me, right there is the crazy part. They're doing all of this, and you think it's to alleviate wasteful government spending? I'm just saying, like, wouldn't you kind of want to start with the biggest issue, like military contracts, military spending? Like, maybe, but no. It's always some sort of personal motives that's always behind situations like this. Now let's go to these individuals here. I guarantee you, if I was ever invited on this show, old boy is gonna get a new hole in his ass with my 10.5 inch foot. Guarantee. Because the stupidity on these people is amazing to me. So, hey, don't invite me because I will embarrass everybody on there.
But when you come into federal service, you have to know that you're going to be part of the public, awareness and its potential that you're going to be in front of people and ask questions about exactly what you do. Now, What's unclear to me is, are they actually government employees, which is a whole different discussion, right? I mean, I think what you're hearing Democrats really push back against is access to confidential, classified information. And importantly, you heard Congressman Khanna say a little bit earlier, the private, personal identifying information, PII is the term in the federal government, for hundreds of millions of Americans as part of the Treasury system.
Maybe Elon.
Now, you would hear that. You heard that, okay? Now, if you're in a professional setting, such as they are, you should come up with a response, either to, hey, you're right, these people who have not been vetted, who are not government officials, should not have America's personal information, or come with a rebuttal that is strong enough for people that are listening be like, oh, that's a good point. Okay, now I'm starting to understand some things. But his response is neither. It's ridiculous. Why is he even there? Do they just need, is he a DEI hire? Because I'm confused. Like what is he there for? Let's take a listen.
Elon can tell me what my social security number is. I seem to have forgotten. Maybe this could be helpful. No, I can't. Look, I understand the concerns that people have right now about, someone who is not elected, sure, being having such a direct role in the operations of the federal government. I would respond to that by saying, well, a lot of the staffers at this vast federal bureaucracy are also not elected, and they work for people who were not elected.
Okay. Hey, whatever your name is, but these people that you're referring to, that you're trying to compare to these 19, 20-year-olds, the people you're referring to put in a thing called an application, okay? And then, based off their credentials and their experience, they get the job or they don't get the job. And if they do get the job, they get paid money to work that job. Do you see how that works? Elon Musk didn't put in the application. He wasn't elected. So when he's going in there doing whatever he wants, now he's bringing more people who has, believe this or not, less credentials than Elon Musk. So your answer is what? Blah, blah. I'm just gonna say some things because I'm wearing glasses and I got this stupid ass haircut. No, that's not how that works. But I guess being a Republican, you can just say whatever dumb stuff you want. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, trust me, it's okay. It's okay.
And the conservative criticism of a lot of these institutions is that they vastly operate outside their mandate or outside real congressional oversight. Look, we have all these departments with all these people in it, career civil servants whose policies are continuous regardless of which political party comes to power. So Trump's view is that this career civil service is hostile to the project of MAGA conservatism and needs to be rooted out to some degree in order to have the government operate in line with what he ran on.
But it's a reason why these institutions are supposed to be apolitical. They're not supposed to be for the Democrats or for the Republican. That's the purpose. That's the purpose. Oh my God, where did they get these people? Like just off the street, hey, do you want to be on TV? Can you read a prompter? Can you say words in a continuous way to where some dumbasses can understand you? And Trump, he wants to delete these institutions so he can formulate whatever institutions that serve his agenda. That's not what it's supposed to do. And it's supposed to prevent one person from having all the authority, all the power.
That is going to involve buyouts for federal employees. That was one policy. Making them actually come to work is another, because a lot of them are going to quit over that, even though most people in the private sector have to show up for work at least a good amount of the time, and other steps that are being taken to find ways to make the government more efficient. This is the only way to grapple with the multi-headed hydra that is the federal government. It's there's no surprise. It's exactly what they ran on doing, that the institutions need to be brought under control. The DEI is going to be, we're going to rid ourselves of it. And you can't. It's hard to make working at the government cool and attractive to bright, brilliant young people, especially if they have to sit through the kinds of DEI sort of training or whatever training you have to do at large organizations, including the federal government.
I feel like you've told me twice now that I'm not cool.
This is not coming up with me. You seem very cool. Linda.
Working for the federal government is cool, for the record, and especially depending on the kinds of things you get to work on. So, Robbie, that was a lot, and so I'm going to try and pull back on a couple of these things, or push back gently on a couple of these things. So, first of all, I don't think it's about whether people are elected or not. I mean, the fact remains, Elon Musk is the richest man on earth who, when you're a billionaire, just for people's edification here, you have a whole network of different entities and organizations that are under your power. You find ways to hide some of them. You find ways to promote and make money on others, right? And part of what I think is an issue here is not the fact that he's not elected, it's that he isn't deconflicted. That is why we've had for so long very strong regulations in place that say if you are going to work in the federal government, where you may profit from the information you have access from, where you may be able to then turn whatever it is that you do as part of the federal government into something private sector and profit making in the future, that's a problem. You're supposed to divest. There's a whole different discussion to be had about that. The other thing is, I don't think everybody in the federal government, and certainly not the 2 million civil service employees that have been the hot topic of debate recently, they don't have access to this kind of information. In fact, the reason I brought up the term PII is because it is a very bright red line within the federal government, and what that bright line tells you is who is allowed to access it and who is not. And so the idea of these young people who, again, may or may not be actual federal government employees being able to come in and access really private information that, impacts hundreds of millions of Americans, that is what I think is truly problematic here. You heard the congressman earlier also talking about the ability to decide based on whatever metrics or filters that they have either at DOJ or that they're going to create at some point in the near future. Whatever they decide they don't want to actually follow through on, this gives them the power to do that.
Up next,
Up next, man, I swear, man. Hey, man, this is going to be the death of just really critical thinking. This is the death of intellectuals. Like, this is the death of just society. I mean, like, just the stupidity of people is dragging everybody else down. And it just starts with just not understanding something. And for whatever reasons they don't want to, or they just have some sort of comprehension disorder, like, them not understanding this is giving that much more leeway to gritty, evil people like Elon Musk more of a chance to do stuff like this. Just because people are stupid. We all have to suffer. That's why we all here. But hey, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments. I would like to say thank you personally. And if you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that Discord button so me and you can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.